breaking stories. We said at the top of the program, U.S. federal prosecutors have filed a criminal complaint against Edward Snowden, charging him with theft of government property, unauthorized communication of national defense information, and willful communication of classified intelligence with an unauthorized person. Now, two of those counts fall under the Federal Espionage Act, which officially makes Snowden an alleged spy in the government's mind, certainly. The process of trying to bring him back from Hong Kong now underway. Snowden, of course, is the former NSA contractor who has admitted leaking highly classified documents about the NSA's phone and internet surveillance programs, documents he acquired while working for the private contractor Booz Allen Hamilton. The Washington Post and Britain's Guardian newspaper published some of them. Glenn Greenwald obtained the documents for The Guardian. He joins me now by phone. So does CNN senior legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Jeffrey Toobin. So, Glenn, I know you believe Snowden has done this country an immense service, performed an act of patriotism by revealing these programs. What do you make of the charges against him now?
I think the key context, Anderson, is the absolutely atrocious record of the Obama administration when it comes to press freedoms and the treatment of whistleblowers and leakers. The Espionage Act is a 1917 statute that was enacted under the Woodrow Wilson administration designed to criminalize dissent against World War I. And for that reason, it has been used very sparingly before Barack Obama became president. Only a total of 3 leakers have ever been prosecuted under that statute in the pre-Obama era. Under President Obama, we now have 7, more than double the number of all previous presidents combined. This is why James Goodall, who was the general counsel for the New York Times during the fights with the Nixon administration over the Pentagon Papers, said that Obama is becoming even worse than Richard Nixon on press freedoms. Jane Mayer, the great investigative journalist for The New Yorker, has said that all these prosecutions have brought investigative journalism to a standstill in the United States and that it's a true threat to press freedom. And I think that it's one thing to charge Snowden with crimes, but to charge him with espionage, which is when somebody works for a foreign government or sells secrets, given what he did, is the kind of extreme excess that the Obama administration has been guilty of for years now.
Jeff Toobin, can you talk about these charges, explain them, the severity of them?
Well, the Espionage Act is a long and complicated statute that most people think of as espionage, whether it's Boris and Natasha in a cartoon or people, the Julius and Ethel Rosenberg in the 1950s. Under the words of the Espionage Act, it does not have to be that kind of espionage where you give the material to a foreign power. All it has to be is information given to an unauthorized person that could be used to the injury of the United States, in the words of the statute. So technically, it is possible to use the Espionage Act, but Glenn is certainly right that the Obama administration has been much more aggressive in using the Espionage Act for leaks to journalists as opposed to spying for a foreign country.
And Jeff, the U.S. will ask China to arrest and certainly detain Snowden, presumably if they're able to find him. I mean, what are the next steps from the Justice Department?
Here's where things get enormously complicated, both legally and diplomatically. He is presumably, and I don't know, Glenn probably knows much better than I do, still in Hong Kong. We have an extradition treaty with Hong Kong. Hong Kong, however, is only semi-independent from China. And our extradition from a treaty from China is not with Hong Kong is not airtight. So if he can be found in Hong Kong, which is not at all clear, and if both the Hong Kong and Chinese governments want to turn him over, there could be an extradition proceeding. All of that is enormously complicated and could take a great deal of time, but it all depends on finding him in the first place, and I don't think that's been done yet.
Glenn, just quickly, an Icelandic businessman is offering up a private plane to fly Snowden to Iceland if the government will guarantee they won't extradite him to the U.S. So far, as I understand, Iceland hasn't received an asylum request from Snowden. Do you think, is that something we can expect? Do you have any information about that?
I think that's one of the options he's been looking at, but I think it's important to realize that there's lots of support for him and what he did all over the world. People all over the world use the internet. They're very concerned about this kind of spying, and I think you're going to see a lot of different options he has for countries and populations around the world who think that he did a noble thing and should be protected rather than spending the rest of his life in prison.
Glenn Greenwald, I appreciate you calling in. Jeff Toobin as well. A lot more ahead tonight.